can't be English and never have gone and got the coloured sands, can you? And gone on that awful, scary cable car. That's like,
when I went.
So you've got to have visited the Isle of Wight. Yeah, I was saying to Graham, I like going because I think, you feel like us mainland people, we feel like excited to be going on the ferry. Feels like you're going on holiday, like somewhere exotic.
Well, I was at my mother's funeral 2 weeks ago, and
Oh, I'm sorry to hear that.
thank you, and we met all mum's old pals. They called them the Dirty Dozen, and there were 6 couples who used to travel everywhere. And when I was 12, Anne Aitken and Ray, who's passed away now, but Anne's still with us, and they took me to the Isle of Wight at 12. We had 2 weeks there, and for a Salford boy, it was very exotic. But what we were laughing at, I showed her a picture of I was in Blackgang Chine. I took my nephew about 3 weeks ago, about a week before the funeral, and I ended up picking the cowboy's nose. And I did that because in 1975 I'd picked the same cowboy's nose, and I thought, Jesus, after all these years, they must have made a fortune, the Blackgang Chine, because they've still got the same props as they had when I was 12 years old. But it's fantastic memories,
I'm somewhat relieved because I assumed there was going to be a court case about you physically challenging a cowboy, but clearly it's not really a cowboy.
No.
I was struggling with that one.
Yeah.
But I was very impressed with the Blackgang Chines, even though, remember, my little nephew he's only, 11, so he was quite impressed too. But, it's like going back in time in some respects.
Oh, 100%. It makes me always think about some of the roads when you drive around. I think I almost feel like I'm at a Bergerac. Do you remember Bergerac?
Yeah.
I feel like it is like, I mean, obviously it's like other places. There are some less sort of nice looking parts of the island than there is sort of like the countryside. But I think it seems to be a really nice place to live, to be honest with you.
Yeah, and it's really interesting when you live on the island. Of course, we see all the problems with living in a particular location. So it's actually really interesting to hear someone from outside and your view of the island. And it sort of brings it home to us that we do live in a lovely place.
Mm.
And we're very lucky. I mean, I get the 10 past 4 ferry most days back to the island. And when you hit traffic and you're in traffic for about half an hour and you're whinging because you've hit the traffic, but really that's it. And you're very unlucky. And around the 5 o'clock, around the Newport area, which is our capital city, I suppose. Our county town, forgive me. It can be a little bit hairy in terms of, quite, but apart from that, and it's very nice. I still leave my key. I'm always losing my keys. So I always leave my keys in the car. And that I've done that for 25 years. I've never not taken my keys out of my car when I leave it in Cowes, which is quite, I've got a rubbish car, but bear in mind.
Well, I was going to say, mind you, we're a nightmare. We've always leaving our doors unlocked, our cars unlocked, but I have got 2 big dogs, and I think that sort of scares people.
I bet.
And we're Hertfordshire, so yeah.
How far are you from London?
Oh, I'm literally the borders of North, like Barnet, London.
Oh, okay. So really on the edge.
Yeah. I mean, I can get the train and it's 2 stops into King's Cross.
It's perfect world, really.
So it's 20 minutes. But I was saying to Graham, I grew up in North London, Finchley.
Right.
So
you're very I love my brother's in Wood Green, and completely worlds apart from the island.
Wood Green. No, Wood Green has always been a little bit more rougher than Finchley.
No, completely. And he won't leave. He's a headmaster in Ealing.
Wood Green is always been a bit of an. Even when I was at school, Wood Green, you had to watch yourself going.
When he comes,
it's like now.
But when he comes to stay, he says, "Oh gosh, it's so quiet here." And I said, "Well," but he said, "There's no gunfire."
No, I was going to say he's a teacher in Wood Green. God, he's brave.
And I'm like, "Oh, well, a headmaster. Can you imagine?" So I'm like, there's no gunfire. So I said, "Well, yeah." So, but when I go and see him, or when I'm in London, I stay with him. I sort of save the hotel and.
Not a hotel in Wood Green, surely.
Oh no! Save me going for the hotel. I stay at his house, but it's very, you're 2 minutes away from Muswell Hill, which is beautiful. you know,
Oh
and
yeah, but
Alexander
Muswell
Palace,
Hill's
which is
always been
fantastic.
that, like,
You know,
it's Muswell Hill. It's yeah.
Ali
No,
Pali's
you've got
lovely, and
Highgate, Hampstead.
exactly,
I mean,
and it is
London has got some
wonderful.
beautiful areas. I mean, I do love London. I've always loved London, but it's changed. I mean, so much. The homeless problem, comes sort of like as soon as it gets dark and the shops shut, all these tents, everyone's just living in tents, like the whole of Tottenham Court Road, or outside all the big furniture shops, everywhere is just full of tents. It's
Tent City. I know
madness.
it's when I walk from the Red Jet through to the office in Southampton, it's just Tent City everywhere.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
Oh,
Isn't
Anyway,
that
listen, the island doesn't have
nice,
that
is
yet.
it?
A little bit, but the islands doesn't have that yet.
And
So
I think
listen,
it's really important to stay patriotic, stay passionate for what you believe in. And I think organizations like Graham's with, the natural enterprise is good to be able to make sure to make small steps, but big impact to be able to protect, because we
well,
can't
yeah,
give it
yeah.
back.
I mean,
They're not making more land, are they? Which is why
no,
I've got my land, because they're never going to make more land. I mean, I look where I am at the moment, and we're surrounded by countryside, considering we're so close, and it's all being earmarked. And we drive along and we go, oh, that will be gone next year. And it's really sad. And they're
yeah.
really shoving these houses in, and they're right up to the boundary. They're quite, how on earth have you got planning for that? But, so
Well,
it's
well,
important.
it's really fascinating, and the island's extremely good at showing trends. Because we're smaller, you can see the trends, and land use on the island is under severe pressure. Whether it's development, whether it's to produce food, whether it's to produce energy, and amenity. And I think what we're seeing on the island, you guys are going to see on the mainland in probably 10 years' time, but it will be too late. Because those,
Do you want to expand on that? What do you mean by that? It's very interesting in
well,
terms of the lateness.
well, Louise is quite right. We're not making any more. So we've got a defined area, and on the islands, we've got all the challenges in terms of having to build houses, quite rightly so, produce food. Food it's bonkers that strategically food production doesn't seem to be important. Whereas if we went back 50 years, feeding the nation was really, really important. And you would have thought our politicians would realize actually
Yeah.
being dependent upon the world to feed your nation is probably not a very good place to be.
Not to mention the climate, for the
Yeah,
footprint, the
absolutely.
carbon footprint that they don't seem to acknowledge.
So all those pressures, then you bring in the energy. We've got solar PVs, we've got anaerobic digesters, all of which are taking land out of the land mix. So it's a really interesting debate which we've got in terms of land use, and you can see it on the island. But I don't think our pressures are any different to the mainland. It's just it's not so apparent.
Smaller. Yeah.
You can see a considerable more amount of land being built on at the moment with houses, Graham. Is that fair to say?
Yeah, and there's going to have to be. So, and wherever you go on the mainland, I travel down to the southwest quite a lot, and two towns are now one town because they're built.
Yeah, building in between.
Yeah, and I think the southeast is even more crowded.
So in terms of our farm, are you finding the agricultural side of things, farmers in particular, are they trying to adapt in terms of their land space? Are they looking into getting into other areas, or how are they finding life at the moment?
Well, we've gone through agriculture transition coming out of Brexit. The greatest ally to UK agriculture has been the French farmer, because when we're a part of Europe, and I'm not political, but when we're a part of Europe, if the bureaucrats decided to do something about agriculture, the French farmers would be out on the streets and they'd soon change the policy. We've come out of Brexit. We don't have the same political clout with our own domestic politicians. And their priorities are elsewhere. Their priorities are the City of London, IT, AI, not looking after the shires. So
Like the farmer.
Yeah, the farmer.
Yeah.
But Louise said something really quite important earlier. What they don't understand is your farm is the catalyst, and its impact is much wider. If you go back to the old market towns, you go back to the service sector, everything was built around this industry. So if you rip the heart out of this industry, it not only impacts there, it impacts all the way through the supply chains.
But you're playing devils slightly, well, very intentionally. But so what? I mean, the bloody farmers are very wealthy people. Why are we so focused on farming? Why is farming so important?
Because I think,
What do you do 3 times a day?
Eat.
At least.
And also, even like at the moment, I don't know if this is effective on the island, but we've got horses and we've got a real issue with hay, a shortage of hay. I mean, literally, if you haven't got a regular farmer to provide you with this hay, you are not going to get hay for your horses now. It's a real problem, especially because obviously we haven't got as much countryside. So, and I think it's to do with part of our heritage and not, like Graham said, relying on outside of the country. And if they do make more money, I'm going to be back to you. So what? If they put themselves out, if they get up 24/7, they don't go on holidays, because traditionally farmers don't tend to go on these. They don't spend necessarily the same money on, they spend their life, is their business, is their farm. So what if they're making more money out of it?
But Michael, you said rich farmers. Define rich.
Yeah.
What
Yes,
do you mean?
I guess the general perception is that they're very wealthy because they have large houses and they have tons and tons of acres of land. I guess that's the perception.
But okay, yes, they've got assets, and we're going to come to this in a second. They've got assets which, because of those competing factors for land, those asset values have gone up. But when they go into Mr. Tesco's or Mr. Sainsbury's, you don't pay with, I've got an acre of land, with cash. And the industry is cash, always has been cash poor.
Yeah.
You could be asset rich, but they're cash poor. Assets don't pay the bills.
Well, I was going to say, because many people who will be listening to this will be staggered at, you'll probably be able to put some defined figures to this. But when we met, I can't remember the farmer's name, but we had a PR shoot when I was milking a cow a couple of years ago, and you told me that the pint of how much he would get paid for, a pint of milk from Tesco's, and I was absolutely staggered.
Yeah.
In terms of and the infrastructure that he had to run a milking farm, the amount of capital he would have had to put out, the labour, the sheer number of hours he put in. For a boy from Salford like myself, it blew my mind when I realised he was paying absolute peanuts. And I thought, and he was always actually saying to me, he thinks every day, what's the point? What is the point of me getting up at,
And because the industry has evolved in a different, or perhaps the rest of the commercial sector has evolved in a different way, that farmer's pay per hour, you wouldn't even get out of bed for. You wouldn't even consider doing work for what their pay rate per hour is.
Yeah.
And also there is risks and variations, because the weather, they can't control the weather. Whether there's a problem with an animal, going back to Jeremy Clarkson, I believe he had to have quite a lot of his cows put to sleep because there was some, so it is quite a high risk industry with a lot of verifications that you just cannot change.
The biggest weakness of the industry, going back to you being rich, is the high asset values which are associated with farming doesn't make it easy for new entrants. And for sectors to go forward, you've got to have new entrants, you've got to have new people, new ideas, challenging the norm. And possibly that's been a weakness, not through the fault of the farmers. Possibly we haven't innovated and changed as much as we needed to So therefore, to respond to market factors is much more of a challenge. So again, if there's something positive to come out of this period of change, is hopefully it will allow new people, perhaps inspired by Clarkson, if that's what it takes, to say, no, that is a way of life, which I really like. But
Are farms closing?
oh,
Are,
yeah.
are we able to look at statistics and see that in 20 years, number of farms close or go out of business? Is that a regular theme?
Yeah, oh, absolutely. Certainly consolidation. If you look at the island, if we went back to I'm going to pluck some figures out the air, but if you went back to sort of 1970s, there was probably 300 dairy farms on the island. There are 4 now.
Wow.
So if you want,
why is that though? Is that because there's regulation, I suppose, as well, and also with the change of people's behaviour, like with social media, a lot more people turning vegan, not just being vegetarian, but that also has quite an impact. It's become quite unfashionable to buy and eat meat.
yeah, for some people, and yeah, everyone's their own preference. But if we stay in the dairy sector, and I hope these figures are about right. On the island, we consume about 20 million litres of milk. That's about how much we consume. We now produce probably 2 million. So we have to bring it, we have to bring milk in from the mainland to service our needs. So it's not market forces in terms of demand and supply. The problem is that the returns from the dairy sector are quite low. The need to regulate, whether it's environmental legislation, health and safety, are quite high. So basically, farmers have either had to grow, add value, or they've disappeared.
And this goes back to the wealthiness as well. They have to constantly reinvest in their machinery, in order to meet these regulations and to keep up to date. And machinery is not cheap.
No, absolutely. So they might be asset rich, going back to your point, Michael, they might be asset rich, but they are hugely cash poor. And what you've seen from my generation forwards, where you naturally went into the farm, lots of offspring are saying, why am I going into an industry where I've got to work 7 days a week, many hours for very little return, when I can go off and do a job and get higher pay for less commitment, less risk.
And I guess what people forget as well is that if these assets are worth value, then if they have to mortgage, then they have to pay the repayments. And how do they make the repayments?
And then if you look at the point we're talking about in terms of inheritance, so if you've got to sell up part of the business to pay for an inheritance tax, it's gone. Your business is even more financially vulnerable because it's smaller.
Yeah.
So on that
if
point,
you sell off parts of the land, then you're reducing your amount of productivity.
Capacity. Yeah. Where if anything, there are only two responses to financial. You either grow in size or you add value. The opportunity to add value can be quite limited because that's normally talking about a more niche type approach. So you've got to try and grow. At the same time, when the tax regime is saying, well, actually, we're going to decimate your business.
Yeah.
So on that point, we do a lot of work with Louise with trusts and with advising people who have got assets. And Louise, you're very passionate about this area, and I think I get confused. I mean, I'm a patents and trademarks and copyright and music really, but I get confused with the new changes. And I believe in April next year we're seeing
it's a key day.
Would you say it's a fundamental change to how property and assets are going to be valued going forward?
Yeah, I mean, I think what's really important is that I'm very passionate about helping people to protect what they've worked hard to build, whether it's generational wealth, bloodline protection, and obviously now this ongoing tax. In the past, businesses and agricultural farmland receive 100% relief So business property relief, agricultural property relief.
And is
Which
that irrespective of the value of the value?
irrespective, it's unlimited. The reason really is to ensure that businesses can continue and they don't die when the owner dies, because there's people's jobs at stake. You know, a business might own, you know, employ people, a farm's got workers, etc. So how is this taxed? Who's going to take this over? Because sometimes it can be the people that work. Not everyone's got family. Not everyone's got family that wants to take it over. So they could have even might not be a direct descendant. It could even be somebody that's always worked and lived on the farm, and that they are due to inherit it. So how are they going to pay the taxes? So it's been a very important relief for anybody that runs a farm or a business. We had the change in government last year. Last year. God, it feels longer than that, doesn't it? Only been a year. So many things have happened. So October, we had the budget, and they announced obviously that they were going to cap the amount that would be continue to be receive this relief, £1 million, which, you know, for some people, well, £1 million is quite a lot of money. What's wrong with that? But actually, in reality, with growing property price, growing value of land, of property, of the assets that farmers in particular are forced to invest in, because otherwise, how do they maintain their land and utilize it the best way? That's a lot of money. So they've now capped that at £1 million, and they've said anything over £1 million is subject to inheritance tax, which is normally 40%, although they will give you a relief, and this is at the moment, of 50%. So in effect, you're paying 20% tax on any value over £1 million. They give you 10 years to pay it, but again, it's how, you know, you've still got to get into a repayment plan. It's got to be improved. And for some people, the pressure of owing money, especially when they're not used to that environment, is actually has quite detrimental effects on them. They can't cope. You know, it's a big worry as to how this is going to be paid. So that's where we're at the moment. Now, so that comes into effect from April next year. So from April, that's it. Doesn't matter what other assets you've got. So what I would like to share with you, and again, this is some general information to sort of consider, because everybody's situation is completely unique to them. But one point that Graham and I discussed, and Graham highlighted earlier, is that this is actually sometimes these kind of like deadlines push you into getting your house in order, to review your arrangements, to make sure that you are maximising, because it's not just, you know, we have the nil rate band, the residential nil rate band. Is there a property owned within the farmland that we can designate as principal prime residence, what that means? So there's lots of things to look at. But if we keep it really simple, because I love to work simple, is the power of a trust. And in reality, a trust is a piece of paper. Hasn't got its own personality. It's a piece of paper that you hold up and you say, oh, this doesn't belong to me. And also, it gives you flexibility on how you pay your money. So a bit like a company that's run by its directors for the benefits of its shareholders, a trust is run by the trustees for the benefit of the beneficiaries. By doing that, you're actually protecting that asset. So if we take away the changes in April, and I'll come on to that. If I give away something now to one of my children, and they get married and then they get divorced, that asset can actually be lost, because it now belongs to somebody. So all what I've tried to do, I've tried to give my children an asset and look after it. It could be lost. If I have to go into care and something's in my name, you know, my assets are assessed. But importantly, we pay generational inheritance tax, which means that as the same value of asset or money passes to different generations, it pays tax over and over again. So if I give £100,000 to one of my kids over the nil rate band, which is 325,000, they receive 60,000. 40 goes immediately to the government. As that same 60 in value passes to their children, so my grandchildren, a further 40% is taxed. So they will only receive 30, £34,000, might be 36, I'm getting confused. But basically 60 odd thousand goes to the tax man as £100,000 passes through 2 generations. A trust can stop that from happening.
And it is just a piece of paper.
Absolutely. Well,
Yeah,
with quite a lot of legal paraphernalia in it, of course. But at the end of the day, now the other thing that people have an issue with during their lifetime is control. If I give you my asset, I lose control, and I don't want to lose control because that's mine, and I don't like the idea of that. So as a settlor, which is the person setting up the trust and putting the asset into trust, I can be a trustee. I can also have settlers' powers. So I'm still have a say in actually what's happening with my asset. I can't benefit from it anymore, though. That's a key. That's quite a key. So we have to think about that. But I can be paid a commercial salary for working within the business or the farm, or as a professional trustee. But I can't actually be seen to benefit. So I can't give away a house and still live in it. It's got to be a length commercial transaction. But you know, there's areas that we can look at if that is a situation. Now, so the trust is always the recommended way to give away assets, either during your lifetime or when you die. Normally, we have limits how much we can put into a trust during our lifetime. And this is a really significant point here regarding the planning that I want to really make, bring to the attention of the farm community on the island, is that if we put more than the nil rate band into trust during our lifetime, we create a chargeable transfer of 20% immediate tax. Currently, that is not payable. On a qualifying asset, of which agricultural and business assets are currently, and before April 2026, we can settle an unlimited amount into trust without triggering that charge. So that's the real key to doing it now. So it's not that you can't do it after April, but you're capped at this million. Now,
a vital window then, Louise, for people to take action.
100%. And of course, the other point, we have got the budget in November. Now, we don't know what's going to happen. And one thing that's been quite sort of noticeable within this change in government is that they do make changes very quickly. The school VAT came into immediate effect. Yes, we've got a bit of warning for this business property relief, but it's not that much warning. It's been a year later and it's coming in. Next year we've got the pension reforms to how the inheritances of the pension. So it's constantly evolving. So it's really, really key for people to take this opportunity now, because come April they will be able to do it. But if it's above £1 million, they're going to have a chargeable gain. Now, that's not going to be the 20%, it's going to be 10%, but that's still a lot of money that you've got to pay out straight away.
So can I just interrupt then? Can I just put some real life situations to this? So me and Graham, we moved in together 25 years ago into our farmhouse in just off Ventnor. Don't look so surprised, Graham.
But I'm just worried.
Okay. And we're both, purely platonic, but no one would have us, and so we have our separate rooms, but we're very happy. Our adopted children are very happy. The value of the property is £3 million. Generally, we've had it valued £3 million. We're both in our, we're both in our early 70s. How do we get this money from this? I mean, we've got a bank account with a few bob in there, but there's nothing. There's pennies in the bank account. We live on a weekly basis. How do we get this trust organised when we've got this just land and property? What do we do with it? We paid for it. There's no mortgage. It's owned by us. But what do we do in order to get this trust?
Okay, well, just the first thing, that's quite a key point. We need to understand what is owned how and by who. Yeah. Because it may be that the residential home would be better being owned in a different way, and we need to consider all options, because there's never a box that ticks every single thing. We need to be able to give people the information in order for them to make an informed decision. What's most important to you? Protection of the you know, some people don't have people that they want to inherit, so actually they don't care.
Yeah.
Other people, that's a massive, you know, a massive priority, the tax, what the implications, because there is always an implication. So we have to think about, for instance, if we put things into trust, who's going to pay the tax on the trust? What is that payable? Are the same reliefs available? You know, what are the pros and cons to all this? So there's always pros and cons. Going back to this person, what would I do? I'd say, well, first of all, we need to address how you actually own this property. Can it even get this agricultural property relief? Because when it's a trading business, you've got to be trading. If the asset investment value is higher, and again, there's not a set value. There's not like, oh, if your business, so if you've got a business that's got £500,000 worth of cash, you could actually lose your qualifying relief because you're deemed to be more investment rather than trading. And there's no black and white rules with all of this, by the way.
So do you have like a questionnaire or some type of formula that you can address if we reach out to you with a client on the island who says, listen, I'm it's so confusing, but do you have something that can steer the individual through?
Absolutely. Like I said, I like to keep it really simple. I think the most important thing now is that people need to take advice to actually look at what arrangements they've got at the moment, what would they want, what options are available to them for them to consider. Now, as far as costs of doing this kind of structure, obviously, you know, you're a great law firm and you're going to have, you know, we can put all of these together because at an affordable price for people, which is also important. So I would say the first instance, they absolutely need to get in touch with you, Michael. We would then send out a basic questionnaire just on things like obviously their marital status, what their asset values are, what are their concerns? Because when I give advice as well, I always like to actually make it understand what is important to the client rather than just going through a tick box. Because like I said, I don't want to create a problem with another problem. What do they need to continue to earn out of the business? Will they continue to live in the house? Are there other assets that other members of the family are living in, different outbuildings that have been converted into residential property? How can we utilize multiple trusts? Because otherwise you create a trust tax charge. So we can use multiple trusts to get around that situation. So there's lots of things, but I don't like to overcomplicate. At the moment, if you've got an asset, if you own assets, you should be having a review. This is the right time to review everything.
I think so. And I think because of April, because, you know, we're of the age now that a day, you know, the weeks go by so quickly that before we know it, it'll be upon us. Certainly, it'll be very useful. I mean, we'll be post April, but obviously we have the county show, which you must have. You must come this next year now.
We've been talking about the county show.
You must come to the county.
Maybe I can be the celebrity, Graham.
Right, absolutely.
We will.
Can we negotiate terms?
Well, it's safe.
I have got my showing hat and stuff like that. I've got all my horse stuff.
You and Mr. Baldock must come over because you'd make a weekend of it, and it's
I will do. Absolutely.
It's a fabulous day, and have a stand. Maybe even have a have a little stand there for yourself.
Yeah.
But that'll be a great opportunity for us to meet. It's meeting people, isn't it? Because I find because it's complicated.
It's about trust. It's about trust. Okay.
Yeah, a lot of these people are intelligent, but maybe not educated. I don't mean that in a rude way. I mean complimentary, and it is complicated, and they just want someone they can trust and sit down, look in the eye, and we can do that because we are.
Well, you're also there. You're also a local company. You're a law company. You're represented on the island. It's definitely down to trust, and I think it's really sad if people don't consider or take action because they don't know where to turn. Because this is really important. So, if you want to protect assets, if you want to make sure that assets are correctly inherited, protected for your bloodline, and avoid paying generational inheritance tax over again, take advantage of the current allowances. You need to review your finances.
Yeah.
And it doesn't need to be any more complicated than that.
The two things which I take from you, Louise, if I may, is one is you're putting the person in the middle because it's all about what the person needs and everyone's circumstances are different. And the second thing is you need a plan.
100%.
And I think that's possibly this is a bit of a wake up time for the industry to say it's about people, it's about putting the person first, but actually you need a plan. And if you've got a plan, you can navigate some of these challenges which we're all facing.
Absolutely, completely spot on. And it goes back to, they do plan. They know how important planning is. A farmer knows, because they'll know that what time they have to sow the seeds, what time do they, each stage is done at a certain stage of the year. And if there's too much rain, what is the plan around that? How do we protect our crops? And this is exactly the same. It's having a plan, but it's having a plan for your finances. And it's really, really important, because we all want our families or our chosen beneficiaries to benefit from what we've worked hard, or our parents have worked hard for. And this, if you don't, it's a shame for people not to make arrangements just because they're not informed.
Although I must add, my eldest is living with it at the moment, and it is like having a plague of locusts at home. I don't seem to be able to keep anything in the fridge for more than 15 minutes. So I may, can I write him out of any trusts or any will that I have, because he owes me a fortune in food and I keep falling over his shoes. So it's really quite annoying,
Yeah. But that's, again, you see, by putting it into trust, you are still retaining control. So yes, you could make changes during your lifetime as well. And also it means that you can benefit from all the beneficiaries. Like there's different tax allowances. Everyone's got a tax allowance. Is it being used? So there's lots of flexibility, but keep it simple. It's no different to a certificate of incorporation. It's a piece of paper.
Yeah.
Very powerful piece of paper that allows you to protect your assets for the future. The priority to doing it now, like ASAP, because April will soon come around, is that you will have this limit on without creating a chargeable transfer. And it will be a real shame for people that have got farms or assets, businesses, 1, 2, 3 million pounds, and they don't do anything. And come April, they think, oh, actually, I want to do this. And it's like, yes, you can do it, but you're now going to have to pay tax when you go into the trust.
Yeah. No, agreed. And even on the higher level and the lower level, I mean, the fact that we put my parents' house as tenants in common as opposed to joint tenants.
Yeah.
That is, and it's not, some people think, oh, it's just a tax dodge. No, it's
No,
not.
that's really important.
It's just good legal advice,
Yeah.
and it saved my mum's house being spent on
care fees.
Which are, astonishing, really.
Absolutely. So it's this kind of structure. Like I said, Graham and I spoke about this at the beginning. Trusts have been in existence for generations, mainly always used by aristocracy, which is why assets are never lost through divorce and financial problems. But they've also sort of had a bit of a bad press along the time. The main ones, trustees, key, really important to get a trustee, ideally a professional trustee, such as Lawdit, so that it's not one person, because if if you name me, for instance, and I'm no longer here, who's going to be the trustee? So a good professional trustee is always recommended. And also it's what the makeup of the trust is. These are flexible discretionary trusts. They enable them to be user friendly, not an absolute trust, which would have been used in the past, which is why you see these programs of people living in their ancestral homes with threadbare carpets and freezing cold in one room because they can't afford to heat the house, and they can't do anything because they don't own it. The trust does. So the trust will have powers that are given to them by the settlor, the person making the trust. We can also take advantage of any capital gains, because obviously if the asset goes into the trust and then it's sold, you would trigger a capital gain. Whereas because we're unlimited at the moment to the value that it can go into the trust, we can utilize any uplift of if any sale is potentially planned. And obviously then the trust is holding cash, which means that obviously if if the cash was owned by the individual, you wouldn't even get that £1 million allowance because it's cash now held instead of the business asset. But keeping it simple, keeping it straightforward is the key to any good financial planning. You overcomplicate it. This is a standard structure. This is just my job is to share with you to make sure we can get this out to everybody rather than some,
Yeah, I think it's an educational thing, isn't it? It's bringing people's awareness, because I think a lot of people do just turn off when it's land on their door, understandably as well, because it is perceived as being complicated and not for us. It's for the others. It's not for us, But I think everybody in the farming industry who's got property assets needs to have a conversation at some point with some advisor.
Absolutely.
All that hard work. I mean, I always, just from our perspective, when we'll be going 25 years now, and at some point we're going to pack up, but we're not ready. It takes us years. It's going to take us years to land the plane, to get it right to sell. And I think if you've put all that hard work in, you need to. It's a bit of self-respect as well. You need to have that self-respect to start thinking about, you're not going to always be here.
No, well, you can't choose when you die, unfortunately.
No.
But the thing is, it's the trust I mean, I am a huge advocate of trust because it's so powerful. And I get it all the time with clients that have given their children money to buy their first home. And then the marriage doesn't work out and that money's gone now. The ex-partner's now got it. Whereas if that money was loaned to them from a trust and it doesn't belong to them.
Yeah.
And it's such a powerful tool. So it's a great opportunity to review everything. Yes, there's brilliant tax benefits to doing it now. But even if you remove that, it is the best way for assets to be inherited and passed through generations.
Louise, can I pose you a question? Obviously, the industry has to borrow because it's fairly cash poor, cash weak. What's the impact of creating a trust if someone needs to use their assets for security to perhaps borrow from a bank?
Okay, so the shareholders, so the actual business part or the asset, depending on how it's owned, that's a really good question. First of all, it depends what we're dealing with. Is there a business development or is there a personal element? If it's the business element, then it's business as usual because it's the shareholders, the trust are the shareholders rather than the operational decision makers of the business. If they want to, banks are also becoming a lot more because there's lots of different ways now. There's special banks that deal with agricultural, National Farmers Union and other institutions that are fully aware of trusts and the importance of being able to continue to maintain money. So again, but it's not going to be as straightforward, but that shouldn't be, there isn't a blocker. And this is one of the reasons why it's important to discuss all the arrangements at the time of the review to make sure that we can cover over those situations. But more and more lenders are looking because they have to evolve with what people's requirements are. People aren't borrowing money, people aren't buying houses. They're changing and lenders have to be able to do that. So there are a lot of specialist lenders and people that are open to that. There's no restrictions on selling anything unless the settlor says specific instructions to their trustees. This must not be done. This must not be done, which is never really recommended because you just don't know what's going to happen. The trust can take on borrowing and things like that. So it wouldn't be a problem.
Okay, brilliant. Thank you.
Okay. Well,
I mean, just, the real points to sort of just to highlight the benefits, no 20% entry charge for over £1 million at the moment. You're removing assets from the estate. They are subject to the 7-year rule. However, any growth is outside of the estate immediately.
I mean, just on that, Louise, sorry to interrupt, but just that 7-year rule is quite important, especially if we've got April coming. That you can start thinking about April, but also factor in that 7 year. If you think, oh my God, I've only got 6 months to deal with, I can't be bothered now. You've still got that 7 years to implement now, to think about that 7 years, which is a great opportunity.
That changed from the budget. that 7-year for qualifying assets changed from April. So if you had a trust structure in place prior to October last year, that's 7-year. But that is important, the 7-year. But then what are you going to do if you don't do the 7-year? 7 years is still going to pass. There are vehicles what you can invest in that will help you to reduce from 7 years to 2 years. But that's, again, I don't, there are you got to think about these things. What happens if you die in the 7 years? How can you pay that? But then how are you going to pay it anyway? But it is a key point, and it's best to get that clock ticking, because we can't choose when we die.
Okay.
There is no magic wand, basically, but there are ways that we can get around. We can try and utilize the options available and make sure that everybody knows about them. So what type of assets are owned and how they're owned is really key. Taxation of the trust, but again, that's a bit more specific. It's not the easiest ways. It's just mandated to the individuals if dividends or whatever are drawn. The farm would continue to run as business as usual. There would be no interference of the trust of the trustees, and in any event, the settler would be a trustee themselves. So I think that's really important key, that no control's lost, because people don't want to give away their assets during their lifetime. I mean, I've got my own family members that you're like saying, you need to give, you need to do this, but people don't want to do it, and nor should they be expected to. To be fair to them, that's their little domain. That's their kingdom. Why should they be forced to give it away? So by doing it via a trust is that stepping stone to starting the ball rolling, but without giving up control. And you can change your mind at the end of the day. If you decide that you don't want to do it anymore, you just bring it back out again. And that's really important to a lot of people. They don't want to give up that control. They want to know that they're still that decision maker. So the trust can really help with that. It has to be an arm's length transaction. So you need to consider, how do you still need to benefit? Will you still live in an asset? How is the asset owned? Do you pay a commercial rent on it? How are you being paid? But this is the detail. These are the small details that we can then work out really simply. Most important point is, don't not do anything because you think it's too complicated, because it really isn't.
Yeah, no, we need to open a dialogue with these guys and girls and to try and establish something for their benefit long term, I think.
I think so. I mean, it's just heartbreaking. So it's just frustrating, because that people don't realize that there's options, or people do overcomplicate it, and we can help them.
Agreed, very much so. Okay. Well, look, thank you so much.
Thank you.
Thank you. It's been really interesting, actually. It's been really interesting. I've really enjoyed speaking to you both, and I've really enjoyed chatting about Jeremy Clarkson and farms and stuff like that. So do you have at the county fair, do you have like horse showing and stuff like that?
Yeah, very much so. No, it's
we have everything.
Well, I have got a few rosettes myself.
Oh, well, there you go. Well, you must come and join. Michael extending the invitation, please.
My horse is sire is a Royal Welsh winner, I'll have you know.
Oh, wow.
I don't ride him. He's like my overpriced garden ornament. Like, right. I bought a horse, I'll be honest with you. When I turned 50, I wanted a Porsche. But for some reason, I bought a horse. Now, said horse has nearly killed me about 3 times. And it was a childhood dream that really should have stayed as a childhood dream, because I thought it'd be great. I could go with my daughter galloping along the beach. And I have done the beach a couple of times. But my horse is a bit insecure, and he gets a bit, and then I get a bit, oh, so he's all, I'm all. And then we both see danger, and he just, yeah. He threw me off in March last year, and I've not been on him since, but I love him, and I can't get rid of him.
That's true. That's not an
baby.
Yeah.
Well, we have the anniversary next year, so it's but it's a big event. I mean, Graham doesn't want to hear things like this, but without Graham, it wouldn't be in existence, and it's becoming to a really. I mean, back in the day, they tell me that, people, they used to close the schools down to go to the county show on the island.
Oh,
And
really?
it's not on that level now, but it's over 2 days now. And how many numbers did we have this year?
Well, we were down this year because it was so hot.
It was so hot.
We're normally we're moving 15,000 upwards.
Wow.
That's a fair effort, and and it
Yeah.
is a fantastic. I mean, we've got a stand there when we bring everyone over, and it's a thoroughly good weekend, and a few pints had by all in the evening, which is
Mm.
And
essential.
it's the
Well,
island
it's a
show.
community affair, isn't it?
Yeah,
Very much
Yeah.
so. And
Yeah.
the work that goes into it is quite staggering. I'm there every Monday in the evenings, every week. Well,
Yeah.
maybe not. I used to in the old days, but Graham still does it every week. So, but is it monthly now? Is the Monday meetings?
Monthly meetings, but when we get to the show, it gets more and more. And what's brilliant is we're all volunteers, and it really brings the community together. And it's the island show.
Yeah.
We're also very proud of our rural heritage.
Yeah.
So yeah, I think there's a lot of pride in.
And that's important. That
Yeah.
that is so important.
Very much so. Very much so.
Yeah.
And do we have, without giving any secrets away, have we any ideas for the star guest next year?
We've been discussing that, haven't we, Graham?
We
Do you
have.
think I said it could be me?
I think it's Louise, by the way.
Well, should be too expensive.
Yeah, we have been talking about that, didn't we, Graham? When we was
Well, I've heard Mr. Clarkson's out.
yes. As a financial advisor, I'm saying yes, absolutely, no way.
Yeah. And I mean, what celebrities on the island? There's quite a few now, but it's just trying to get the diaries matched, isn't it? To sync their diaries.
And it's about bums on seats. If you're going to financially invest in a headline individual, it's got to be someone to bring people to the island.
Who have you had in the past?
Well, what we did, we've actually moved away, and most shows have moved away from having headlines to investing across the whole of the show. Because we were trying to bring it up, we've spent our money across the area. So we've got a headline in the dog area, we've got a headline in the equine, in the livestock. But because we're 125 years old next year, we're going to go back to hopefully having a headline. We've approached the JCB Dancing Diggers, which would fit perfectly. And if you haven't seen them, well worth watching. We have invited a royal to join us. But we've had royal visits in the past because of our royal status, and typical island, we're fairly well connected. But understandably, they're not too keen on giving up their weekends, and we're a weekend show. But it'd be nice to get a member of the royal family to the show.
Wow.
But it's a statement about the island. It's a statement about our history, and it's also a big statement about our future.
Yeah, no, I agree. I think traditions and bringing communities together and big events are really key. And I think if we don't focus on that, and it is really well done to people like you, Graham, and we talked about this when it came to like the people that want to go into politics and stuff like that. If we can't complain when we don't do anything ourselves, put ourselves forward, and then we complain that, we're not happy with so and so. So actually, putting together something like an event like that is absolutely huge, and you're coordinating you're working with animals, children, and just the general public. I mean, God.
So that's the worst.
Yeah.
Children are fine. It's the solicitors, which
I'll take that one on the chin.
Michael has always overstated my role. But what's so powerful is it's about bringing people together.
Yeah.
It is quite incredible to see the commitment which people make from all walks of life, all ages, which comes together, and that's such a hugely powerful entity. And my biggest concern, if I'm honest with you, is making sure we don't do anything to dilute or distract from that commitment. And it's a really interesting exercise. I'm a bit of a people watcher, and I look at those people and think, well, why are they giving up so much of their time? Why are they so committed? I'm slightly insane, so that's my excuse. but they do, don't they, Michael? And it
Very much so.
hugely
Very much
powerful.
so.
Well, also it's nice. It's actually quite an achievement to be part of something so big and so important in the community. So actually, I think that's another, people want to get involved. And I think that's the thing where people like success, and again it goes back to this structure of one person does it and it works. Oh, I want to do that, and I want to be part of that, and I want to share that. And I think that's the thing, that you're part of something really successful and you feel really proud when you stand around and you look at all what you've achieved.
And also very fragile. It's terribly, terribly fragile. This year, for instance, we had about 25% drop in attendance. And that was purely down to the fact that we had a amber heat warning. So the council were basically saying, if you haven't got to go out, don't go out.
Or go to the beach. So a lot of people go to the beach that weekend because it's so beautiful.
Yeah.
So you can do all the right things and still not quite hit. But we had a fantastic show. We just didn't have so many people. The people who came didn't stay very long, which meant they didn't spend
as much money. And of course, then you've got the animals out in the heat and bringing them, the traveling, etc.
So it's
there's a lot to coordinate.
It's a terribly fragile event, but hugely satisfying.
But I think to the extent when we've had inquiries over the past about putting on festivals from a legal perspective, I go to Graham because he's literally putting on a festival every year.
Yeah.
So I didn't know how to coordinate my legal advice to get, to try and land the promoter as a client who they're putting on a festival on the island near Brighton. It was, quite a big jazz festival. And then, you talk to Graham about all the legalities from the traffic to the health and safety. I mean, it's phenomenal, really. And you've got your full-time job.
Yeah.
And you almost wouldn't do it, actually, if you sat back and looked at it in a rational way. You wouldn't. Why would you bring 15,000 people with all their own particular needs and requirements, and some of them behave in rather strange ways? But it's about bringing the community together, and that's the real strength of it.
Absolutely. And it's important because once these things are lost, it's a bit like land. You don't bring them back, and it's important to continue.
And also, I think it's important for the island to celebrate who we are.
Absolutely, I agree.
And
Very much so.
Do you sail, either of you two?
No, not guilty, Your Honour.
Not guilty, but I'm always Mark Reed, who's Mark Reed, of course. You both know Mark Reed very well. He's a laser sailor. He can sail. Is anything Mark can't do? I think if you said, but Mark sails. Mark's very good, very handy. I think he was on a cruise he was a captain or whatever you call it for a couple of years when he was a young man.
You mean he's got
I don't sail, but we should. Me and Isaz always wanted to join and go to the school of sailing, but we never got around to it. Plus it's cold.
Yeah, I always wanted to get my skipper's license, but I've not done that either.
Yeah. Well, maybe that's something to do. We can.
Yeah, maybe I need to. Yeah. Well, I've got a question for you, Graham, if I may. It's a farming question.
Okay.
What is your favourite make of tractor?
Oh gosh. Well, from home it was John Deere, so I think I would stay with the John Deere.
Okay.
But that's only because that's what we had on the farm.
No, John Deere is a good make. Okay, right.
But
don't get me aroused now. You start talking about
tractors.
No,
my husband was desperate for a tractor. For a tractor.
Well, I'd love to say buy a British tractor, but there's no such thing. They're all international.
Well, there's a section of the county show, Louise, where the tractors come in at the end. There's a tractor parade.
Yeah, no, I'm definitely going to come.
And you see them. I'm not. I'm not easily pleased, really. But you see the track, and you really are quite impressive. But these old boys have, the 40s, 50s machines, and they're in immaculate condition. And the love that's given to these things, and it really is very impressive. Seriously, Even hardcore Northerners have come down to it and been, wow, this has really been a great weekend.
The other thing, while we're on a sales pitch, the other thing which I'm quite a few, 25% of our attendance now comes from the mainland, but we don't do any advertising on the mainland. You know, all the feedback we get is, we love your show because it's very traditional, it's very relaxed, and it's very friendly. And those three words sort of reflects the island and who we are. And again, I sometimes I sit somewhat stressed by how do we retain that. But again, it's all about people.
Have your family always? So your father was a dairy farmer. So what's happened to their farm, your family farm? Do you still own the farm?
Yeah, my eldest brother took it on. I've got two brothers. The eldest took the farm on, still farms. And then I was going to go back and farm. We had two farms, a big one and a smaller one. And the idea was that my eldest brother would have the big one and I'd have the smaller one. But I got to about 16, 17 with my future plotted out. And as you do, I said, I'm not sure I want to do that. So I went off and did other things. It was the right thing to do because we wouldn't have been big enough to support two families. So I'm pleased to say my eldest brother successfully farms, and that's his business. And he puts my house on straight, so he keeps me grounded. And for me, what's really nice is both my brothers come to our county show. One does the commentating for the livestock, and the other one's a judge.
Okay.
We all, not that I see them because I'm here, there, and everywhere, but it's nice. It's a part of that
family.
Yeah, big family person. So it's nice to.
Oh, excellent. And have you got children?
Yeah, I've got 4 boys.
Oh, wow.
And they all help as well, whether they like it or not. So they come back in different roles.
And do they all live on the island?
No, 3 are off island. One's the baby, which is 19, is still at home, but the other 3 are long gone. So that's the problem with the island, is they've got to go.
Yeah, I suppose. Yeah,
but
and then they want to come back.
Yeah.
So they go and then they come back. They go and, well, my son just went off to Australia and he came back, and he's a bit like Michael's son, eating everything, shoes everywhere. But then this time last year I was in depression.
Right.
Oh, my baby, I need to see him. Christmas, I was like, Christmas is cancelled, Harry's not here. So that's the problem. You miss them, don't you, when they're sort of not here, and then when they're here, you're like, oh God.
Yeah. You enjoy moaning about them, but without them, you wouldn't know what to do.
Oh no, completely. But no.
Well, there'll be food in the fridge anyway. That's
exactly. and no loads of washing.
No loads of washing.
Forgive me, I must go.
Yeah. No. Well, thank you. I will get Louise, if you can send that to me, and I will get Ryan to do what he has to do, and then I'll send it to you both. If you're happy with it, we'll get it out to people. You
tell me what I need to do. How do I get it?
So I think once you've stopped recording, it downloads to the cloud, and then you can just send me a link, and then you get sent a link, and just send me that link, and then we'll go from there.
Okay. All right. Fantastic.
I think Graham, you're a superstar. Thank you for your time.
Good to see you.
We'll have lunch soon.
Don't be a stranger, Louise.
Well,
no, really lovely to meet you. Thank you for your time, Graham. Thanks for arranging.
All right, that was really useful, and let's try and make something of this, and try and help these people out there.
Absolutely.
All right. Thanks again.
Bye. Thanks, Graham. Bye.
Bye. Thanks, Luke. Bye.
Bye. Oh.
Don't swear now.
No. Okay. All right.
Leave meeting. Bye. Bye.